The stars were quiet. Out in the far edge of the galaxy, where only patrol ships of the Galactic Empire traveled, the emptiness of space stretched endlessly. Imperial scouts often joked that nothing interesting ever happened in this sector. Their job was boring, their routes predictable, and the most exciting thing they usually saw was a passing trader. But on this day, everything changed. A ripple moved across the darkness, like a stone thrown into still water. It was not natural. Alarms lit up inside the Empire's scout ship as sensors screamed in warning. The crew hurried to their stations, staring at the strange readings appearing on their screens. "Captain, a spatial breach is forming," said one officer, his voice filled with tension. The captain, a stern man with years of service, frowned. Spatial breaches were rare and dangerous, but never had one appeared in this sector. He leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the viewport. Outside, the ripple widened into a blinding flash of light. When the light faded, something massive was there. A ship. At first, the crew thought it might be a lost Imperial dreadnought, but the design was completely alien to their eyes. Its hull was sharp, yet smooth, like a blade forged for war. Strange markings glowed faintly across its surface. The ship was silent, unmoving, but its very presence filled the space around it with an air of power. The captain whispered what everyone was thinking. "That is no Imperial ship." The sensors struggled to analyze it, throwing out strange numbers and failing to match the vessel to any known species. The Empire catalogued thousands of races across the stars, yet this warship belonged to none of them. The crew stared in silence. A chill passed over them. Something about the ship was unsettling, not because it threatened them yet, but because it stood there with such confidence, as if it did not fear the Empire at all. News traveled fast. The Empire's communication relays picked up the signal from the scout ship and carried it back to the nearest fleet command. Within hours, admirals across the sector were studying the reports. Many laughed when they first heard it. A lone warship? Emerging out of nowhere? The idea seemed ridiculous. The Galactic Empire had ruled unchallenged for centuries. No unknown ship could truly threaten their fleets. But one admiral, an older woman who had seen rebellions rise and fall, did not laugh. She narrowed her eyes at the report. "Unknown designs," she muttered. "Unknown technology. This is not a coincidence." Back in the scout ship, tension only grew. The strange vessel had not moved. It simply floated there, silent, like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. The Empire's captain ordered hails to be sent. They transmitted in every common language used across the galaxy. No answer came. The silence was worse than hostility. It was as if the ship was watching them, judging them, waiting. Hours passed. More Empire patrol ships arrived, circling the newcomer. Their weapons were armed, their shields raised. Still, the strange ship did nothing. To some, that was a sign of weakness. To others, it was terrifying restraint. Finally, one officer on the scout ship broke the silence. "Captain, permission to approach." The captain hesitated. He looked again at the mysterious warship. Something deep inside told him that approaching was dangerous, yet he also knew the Empire expected answers. He nodded. "Proceed carefully." The smaller patrol vessel moved forward. Step by step, meter by meter, it drifted closer until the shadow of the unknown warship fell across it. The Imperial officers felt dwarfed by its sheer size. Then it happened. The alien ship came alive. Lights ran across its hull, glowing bright blue. Panels shifted as if the warship was waking from sleep. The Imperial crews panicked. Weapons were locked, shields reinforced. But before any attack could begin, a transmission cut through the silence. It was in a language the Empire had never heard before. Harsh, clear, but strangely human. The words were impossible to understand, Yet the tone carried meaning: strong, commanding, unafraid. The Empire's captain stared at the screen, his heart pounding. "Who are they?" he whispered. Across the galaxy, rumors began to spread. Traders, smugglers, and mercenaries carried the story. A warship had appeared from nowhere. A design unseen before. A crew that spoke no known tongue. Some called it an omen, others called it a joke. But in the shadows of the Empire, oppressed races whispered something else. Hope. If a power existed beyond the Empire's control, perhaps their chains could be broken. Back at the edge of the galaxy, the unknown warship remained silent after its single message. It did not fire. It did not retreat. It simply waited. And in that waiting, the Empire felt something it had not known in centuries. Fear. For the first time, the Galactic Empire realized it might not be as unchallenged as it believed. And far away, on the bridge of the strange warship, a human captain stood calmly, his eyes on the stars. He knew the Empire had seen them now. He knew there was no turning back. Humanity had stepped into the galaxy's stage. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The Galactic Empire wasted no time. When news of the mysterious warship spread through the fleets, admirals ordered immediate action. To them, a lone vessel appearing without warning was not a mystery to be studied, it was a threat to be crushed. Pride guided their choices. The Empire had ruled for centuries without equal, and they could not allow the idea of an unknown power roaming freely through their territory. A small fleet of 6 ships was dispatched to the sector. 2 cruisers, 3 destroyers, and a single battleship formed the group. To the Empire, this was more than enough to overwhelm any outsider. Their commanders were certain the warship would either flee or surrender the moment Imperial guns locked on it. The fleet entered the sector with confidence. The ships moved into formation, weapons armed, shields raised. Their captains exchanged short, almost casual words over the comms, joking about who would fire the first shot. To them, this mission was nothing more than a reminder to the galaxy of the Empire's power. But when the fleet closed in on the strange vessel, their laughter faded. The warship stood motionless, yet its presence was heavy, like a mountain that refused to move. Its dark hull gleamed faintly under the starlight, and its glowing lines pulsed like the veins of a living creature. Inside the bridge of the battleship Iron Crest, the Imperial commander leaned forward in his chair. He was a man named Vera, proud and sharp, loyal to the Empire above all else. He had faced rebellions, pirates, and rogue fleets before. Yet something about this encounter felt different. "Open a channel," he ordered. The communication officers obeyed. The Empire sent its message in the most common galactic language, one that nearly every known race understood. The words were simple and direct. "You are trespassing in Imperial space. Identify yourself and surrender your vessel. Failure to comply will result in your destruction." The words echoed through the void. For a long moment, there was no response. The Imperial captains waited, growing impatient. Some smirked, believing the silence meant fear. Others tightened their grip on their controls, uneasy at the unknown. Then, at last, the mysterious warship replied. A voice spoke through the comms. It was deep, calm, and carried a weight that made every Imperial officer pause. The language was translated into the Empire's tongue by the ship's systems, though the accent was strange. "This is the warship Resolute, of humanity. We will not bow. We will not flee. We are here to stand." The words struck like a hammer. None of the Empire's officers had ever heard of this race, humanity. The Empire's archives contained no mention of them. Yet the voice carried no hesitation, no weakness. It was not the plea of a lost ship. It was the statement of a people who believed in themselves. On the Iron Crest, Commander Vera scowled. He rose to his feet and spoke with cold authority. "Humanity, whatever you are, you face the Empire. You are one ship. We are many. Surrender, or be destroyed. A moment of silence followed. Then the human voice returned, steady as stone. Try us. Those two words rippled through the Imperial fleet like a storm. The destroyer captains scoffed, eager for battle. The cruiser crews whispered nervously. Even Vera, who had faced countless enemies, felt a flicker of doubt. But his pride was stronger than his fear. Prepare to engage, he ordered. The Empire's ships spread into attack formation. Weapons charged, targeting systems locked on the Resolute. The first volley was fired, beams of plasma and streams of missiles cutting through the void. The scout ships that had witnessed the arrival of the warship watched in silence, waiting to see the unknown vessel torn apart. But what happened next silenced every voice. The weapons struck, but the Resolute did not crumble. Its shields flared with light, holding firm against the storm of fire. Not a single shot pierced its defenses. Gasps filled the bridges of the Empire's ships. Their weapons had shattered pirate fleets, leveled rebel stations, and destroyed countless enemies. Yet here, against one lone warship, they had done nothing. Then the Resolute answered. From its side, a single cannon rotated into place. It glowed with a fierce light, gathering power. For a moment, the void was quiet. Then the cannon fired. The beam lanced across space and struck one of the destroyers. In an instant, the Imperial ship was gone, consumed in a burst of fire. No wreckage, no survivors. Just silence where once a warship had been. The Empire's fleet froze. Shock rippled through every crew. They had come expecting an easy victory, yet in a single shot, they had lost a ship. Fear began to creep into their hearts. On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Daniel stood calm and steady. His crew looked to him with trust, their eyes wide but filled with belief. They were outnumbered, but they were not afraid. Daniel's voice was firm as he gave his next order. Hold position. Let them decide if they truly wish to test us further. Across the fleet, Commander Vera gritted his teeth. His pride screamed at him to attack again, to crush this upstart race before it could spread its defiance. Yet in the back of his mind, doubt grew stronger. One warship had just shaken the Empire's confidence in a way no rebellion ever had. And far beyond the battlefield, in the hidden corners of the galaxy, whispers grew louder. Traders carried the story. Smugglers repeated it in dark stations. Oppressed races listened with wide eyes. A single warship had stood against the Empire and refused to bow. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy began to wonder if the Empire was not as untouchable as it claimed. Humanity had spoken its first words to the stars. And the stars were listening. The stars burned silently as two forces faced each other in the void. On one side stood the pride of the Galactic Empire, cruisers, destroyers, and the battleship Iron Crest. On the other side drifted one lone vessel, the human warship Resolute. It did not move. It did not retreat. It waited with quiet confidence, like a predator that needed only patience. Inside the Iron Crest, Commander Vera paced across his bridge. His officers avoided his gaze, shaken by what they had seen. One of their destroyers had been reduced to nothing with a single shot. The impossible had happened before their eyes. Yet Vera's pride refused to bend. They are still only one ship, he said sharply. One victory does not make them invincible. The crew nodded, though hesitation clouded their faces. Order all ships to advance, Vera continued. We will strike together. Focus fire. Their shields must break under combined force. The Imperial fleet shifted into new formation. Cruisers moved to the sides, destroyers swept forward, and the Iron Crest took its place at the center. Their weapons glowed, ready to unleash destruction once again. On the Resolute, Captain Daniel stood calmly. His officers watched the Imperial maneuvers, their hands hovering over their stations. They knew the odds. 6 warships remained, each carrying enough firepower to level a city. Yet their captain's voice was steady. "They believe numbers give them strength," Daniel said. "But strength is not only in numbers. It is in resolve." The crew tightened their grips and steadied their breathing. Every one of them understood they were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting to show the galaxy what humanity was. The Empire struck first. A storm of plasma beams and missile fire streaked across space. The void blazed with light as the weapon slammed into the Resolute's shields. Blue energy flared bright, trembling under the force. The ship shuddered, but the shields held. "Shields at 70%, reported the tactical officer. Daniel nodded, his face calm though his heart beat hard in his chest. "Return fire. Target the lead cruiser." The Resolute's cannons roared to life. Twin beams of searing light lanced across the battlefield, striking the Imperial cruiser at its core. The cruiser's shields buckled instantly. A second volley followed, tearing through the hull. The cruiser erupted in fire, fragments scattering into the void. Gasps filled the Imperial bridges. Another ship gone. In mere moments, the balance of power shifted again. But the Empire pressed on. The destroyers swarmed forward, launching wave after wave of torpedoes. The Resolute twisted in space, its thrusters burning bright as it maneuvered with a speed that stunned Imperial officers. For a vessel of its size, its agility was unnatural. Many torpedoes missed their mark, exploding harmlessly in empty space. Still, some found their target. The Resolute rocked as impacts struck. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. "Minor hull damage on the lower decks," the engineer reported. "Shields at 50%. Daniel stood tall, unshaken. "Focus fire on the destroyers. Show them what precision means." The Resolute turned sharply, its cannons blazing again. One destroyer vanished in a burst of light, its remains scattering into the stars. A second was crippled, its engines torn apart, drifting powerless. The Empire's pride began to crack. Fear spread through their ranks. Each shot from the human ship was devastating, each maneuver precise. For the first time in generations, Imperial crews realized they were not the hunters, they were the prey. On the Iron Crest, Vera slammed his fist against the command chair. Rage filled his voice. "Fools! Do not falter. We are the Empire. We do not bow to shadows." He ordered the full power of his battleship to focus on the Resolute. Gigantic cannons lit up, releasing blasts of plasma larger than entire shuttles. The beams struck hard, forcing the human ship's shields to flare dangerously. Warning alarms screamed across the Resolute's bridge. "Shields at 20%, the officer called out. The crew looked to Captain Daniel. Their ship could not take another barrage like that. But Daniel's eyes never wavered. He turned to his helmsman. "Bring us close. Right under their guns." The crew hesitated, then obeyed. The Resolute surged forward, heading straight toward the Iron Crest. Imperial officers shouted in shock. No one had ever dared to charge directly at a battleship. As the Resolute closed the distance, the giant cannons of the Iron Crest struggled to adjust their aim. The human ship moved too fast, darting through blind spots. Then the Resolute unleashed its full power at close range. Beams of concentrated energy tore across the battleship's shields. Armor cracked. Explosions erupted along its surface. The mighty Iron Crest shuddered under the assault, its crew thrown from their stations. On every Imperial ship, disbelief spread. Their strongest vessel, their pride, was being driven back by one lone outsider. Inside the Resolute, the crew cheered as the battleship reeled. Captain Daniel allowed a small, calm smile. "This battle is not won yet," he reminded them. "But today, the Empire learns that humanity will not kneel." The clash raged on. Fire and light lit the void as two forces collided, pride against resolve, domination against freedom. And though the outcome was not yet decided, One truth was already clear: the Empire had underestimated humanity. The galaxy would never forget this battle. The battle still burned across the stars. Wreckage from Imperial cruisers and destroyers drifted in the void, glowing faintly in the cold light of distant suns. The mighty battleship Iron Crest was damaged but still holding its place. The lone human warship Resolute carried burns and scars across its hull, but it had not fallen. Inside the Resolute's bridge, Captain Daniel stood tall. His uniform was torn near the shoulder, smoke lingered in the air from overloaded consoles, yet his eyes were sharp and steady. Around him, his officers worked with focus, though fatigue showed on their faces. They had survived what no one believed possible. The tactical officer spoke quickly. "Shields are down to 15%, Captain. Hull integrity is dropping on the starboard side." The engineer added, "We have patched what we can, but one more direct hit from the Iron Crest could break us." All eyes turned to Daniel. He took a slow breath, letting silence hang for a moment. Then he spoke in a calm, steady tone. "We are still here. That is what matters. They wanted us broken already. Yet we stand." His words carried through the bridge like a steady flame in the darkness. The crew straightened their backs, their fear replaced by determination. They trusted him. On the other side of the battlefield, the Empire struggled to make sense of the fight. Commander Vera raged inside the Iron Crest, furious at how much damage one strange vessel had caused. His pride was wounded deeper than his ship's armor. He had promised the Empire an easy victory, yet now his fleet was half destroyed. "Why will they not fall?" Vera demanded, his voice sharp. An officer dared to answer. "Sir, their captain does not yield. Every move is precise. It is as if he knows our weaknesses before we see them." Vera clenched his fists. He could not accept that one unknown race could match the might of the Empire. Yet deep inside, a seed of doubt had been planted. Back on the Resolute, Daniel looked across the stars at the enemy fleet. He knew the Empire would not forgive this insult. They would return with more ships, with more firepower. But for now, his ship still had one chance to prove that humanity was not to be dismissed. "Helm," Daniel ordered, "bring us about. Keep the Iron Crest in our sights. Tactical, prepare another volley. If we must fall, we will fall striking." The bridge grew tense. Everyone knew the risk. One mistake could end them. But Daniel's calm presence steadied their hearts. He was not shouting, not panicking. He led by standing firm, even as the stars burned with danger around them. "Captain," the communications officer interrupted, "we are receiving open frequencies from the Imperial fleet." "Put it through," Daniel said. The screen flickered, revealing Commander Vera. His uniform was scorched, his face marked with strain, but his pride was unbroken. "You fight well," Vera admitted with bitterness. "But this is pointless. You are one ship. The Empire is endless. Stand down and I may let you live." Daniel did not look shaken. His voice was calm, almost quiet, yet every word carried strength. "You call yourselves endless. But every empire falls when it forgets that courage matters more than numbers. We are humanity. We came not to bow, not to beg, but to show you we will never surrender." The words cut deep. Vera's pride bristled at the defiance. But in the shadows of the Empire's fleet, officers whispered among themselves. This was no ordinary enemy. These humans carried something different, something the Empire had long forgotten. Resolve. The Resolute moved again, darting through the battlefield with sudden bursts of speed. It was battered, yet every strike it launched was precise, every movement measured. The crew followed Daniel's commands without hesitation. They no longer fought only for survival, they fought because they believed in their captain and in the cause he carried. Minutes stretched like hours. Plasma fire and missiles filled the void, lighting the battlefield with streaks of color. The Resolute endured each wave, firing back with deadly accuracy. Finally, after a brutal exchange, the Imperial fleet began to falter. Their destroyers lay shattered, their cruisers torn apart. The Iron Crest, though still standing, was bleeding fire from its wounds. For the first time in centuries, an Imperial commander ordered a retreat. Vera gave the command through clenched teeth. His pride was broken, but his survival instincts were stronger. The remaining ships turned away, pulling back into the darkness. On the Resolute's bridge, silence filled the air. The crew stared at the screens in disbelief as the enemy ships withdrew. Slowly, cheers broke out. Exhausted voices filled with joy and relief. They had done the impossible. Daniel raised a hand, calming them. His voice was steady, carrying both pride and caution. We have won a battle, not the war. They will return, stronger and angrier. But today we have shown the galaxy something they will never forget. The crew nodded, their respect for him deeper than ever. They understood his words. The Empire had been shaken, but this was only the beginning. Humanity's stand had just started. Daniel looked out at the wreckage drifting across space. He knew what it meant. Other worlds, other races, would hear of this battle. Some would fear humanity. Others would find hope. Either way, the galaxy would no longer see humans as nameless wanderers. With calm certainty, he spoke the words that carried through the bridge. Humanity is here. And we will not kneel. The news of the battle spread through the Galactic Empire like fire through dry grass. For centuries, no one had dared to challenge Imperial fleets in open combat. Yet now, rumors filled every corner of the galaxy. A single warship, commanded by an unknown race calling themselves humanity, had stood against the might of the Empire and forced it to retreat. In the Imperial capital, the council chamber filled with voices of outrage. Admirals, governors, and ministers argued loudly, their pride shaken. This is nothing but a minor skirmish, one admiral declared, slamming his fist against the table. One ship cannot change the order of the galaxy. The Empire is too vast, too strong. Another governor, a cautious man with deep lines on his face, shook his head. Do not fool yourselves. Symbols matter. The people already whisper of this human warship. Rebellious worlds hear this story and take courage from it. We cannot allow the seed of hope to grow. The chamber grew heated, voices rising. Pride fought against fear. For generations, the Empire had ruled with certainty. But now that certainty was cracked. At last, the Emperor's voice cut through the noise. It was calm but heavy with authority. Hope is more dangerous than fleets. If this Resolute exists, we will crush it. Gather a fleet large enough to erase any doubt. I want this ship turned to dust, and its people forgotten. The order was clear. Within days, a massive Imperial fleet was assembled. 10 cruisers, 6 destroyers, and 2 battleships prepared to hunt down the human warship. Their commanders laughed at the assignment. To them, it seemed absurd to send such overwhelming power against one vessel. Many saw it as overkill, but none dared to question the Emperor. Meanwhile, far from the capital, the Resolute drifted in a quiet sector. Repairs filled every corner of the ship. Hull plates were welded, scorched wires replaced, shields reinforced as best as possible. The crew worked tirelessly, their bodies worn but their spirits unbroken. In the mess hall, officers spoke in hushed tones. Do you think they will come back with more ships? One asked. They will, another replied firmly. The Empire never forgets humiliation. But let them come. We showed them once already. Even in their exhaustion, there was a spark in their eyes, a spark lit by their captain. On the bridge, Captain Daniel studied the star charts. His mind was sharp, thinking several steps ahead. He knew the Empire would not let them go. Yet he also understood something deeper, the galaxy was watching. Every move the Resolute made now would echo far beyond this battlefield. The communications officer approached. "Captain, transmissions are spreading. Traders speak of us. Colonies whisper our name. Some even call us the Ship of Hope." Daniel did not smile, though pride stirred in his chest. "Hope is dangerous," he said quietly. "But if others find courage in us, then we must carry that weight." His eyes hardened. He knew what was coming. The Empire would send more ships, perhaps more than his crew could ever face. But surrender was not an option. Humanity's first steps into the galaxy had to be taken with strength. Days later, the storm arrived. Sensors screamed as dozens of Imperial signatures appeared at the edge of the system. The fleet emerged in perfect formation, their guns glowing with power. The void filled with the glittering lights of Imperial steel. Against them, the Resolute looked small, a lone flame against a burning storm. The crew stared at their screens, silence heavy in the air. The numbers were overwhelming. 2 battleships, the tactical officer whispered. 10 cruisers. 6 destroyers. The engineer muttered under his breath, "That is not a fleet. That is an army." For a moment, fear hung over the bridge. The odds were worse than any of them had imagined. But then Daniel stood, his voice calm, steady, and strong. "They believe we are weak because we are few. They believe numbers make them invincible. But they do not understand. One ship with courage is stronger than a fleet without conviction. We will fight, not just for ourselves, but for every world that watches today. Let the Empire see that humanity does not bend." His words cut through the fear. The crew straightened, fire returning to their eyes. They had faced death before. They would face it again. The Imperial fleet advanced, their formation tightening around the Resolute. Confidence filled their voices. They mocked the idea that one ship could resist them again. "End this quickly," an admiral ordered. "Erase this nuisance from our stars." But in the hearts of their crews, doubt lingered. The story of the first battle was fresh. They had seen how the unknown warship struck with precision, how it defied logic. And as they closed in, a single thought echoed unspoken: what if it happened again? The Resolute turned to face them. Its scarred hull gleamed with determination. The human warship was ready. In that moment, the galaxy held its breath. The Empire had underestimated humanity once. They were about to do it again. The stars glimmered coldly as the Imperial fleet closed in on the Resolute. 10 cruisers, 6 destroyers, and 2 battleships spread out in deadly formation, weapons glowing like bright comets ready to strike. Their confidence was high. They believed the lone human ship could not survive this assault. Inside the Resolute, Captain Daniel moved calmly across the bridge. His crew worked quickly, adjusting shields, reloading weapons, and checking systems. Every alert, every sensor blip was met with steady hands and careful judgment. Fatigue weighed on them, but determination was stronger. "Captain," the tactical officer reported, "they are closing in on all sides. If they fire together, one strike could destroy us." Daniel nodded, his eyes focused on the approaching fleet. "Then we make our strike count. We will show them that courage is stronger than numbers." He turned to the helmsman. "Bring us into the center of their formation. Not to flee, not to hide, but to stand. Target their lead battleship first, then the cruisers." The crew exchanged nervous glances, but Daniel's calm voice steadied them. Every one of them knew what was at stake. Not just their lives, but the message humanity carried, that even one determined race could stand against the mightiest empire in the galaxy. The Imperial fleet laughed at their audacity. Admiral Vera's voice boomed through the comms. "You cannot survive. One ship against my fleet is suicide. Surrender now and save what is left of your crew." Daniel replied, his voice quiet but resolute. "We do not surrender. We fight, because we must. Humanity does not bow to fear." The Resolute surged forward, engines blazing. Imperial beams cut through space toward them, striking shields and making the hull groan. Sparks flew inside the ship as alarms blared. Hull integrity dropping, the engineer shouted. We cannot take much more. Daniel's eyes did not leave the fleet. Hold steady. Focus fire on the battleship. Take down their leader first. The human warship fired, twin beams of energy slicing through the void. The lead battleship shuddered as shields strained and sparks flew across its hull. The first strike was precise and powerful, shaking the fleet. Imperial officers gasped at the accuracy and timing. The cruisers moved to defend their battleship, but the Resolute danced between them, its movements fast and unpredictable. Its weapons fired again, one by one, striking destroyers and crippling cruisers. The fleet had underestimated one ship, and now chaos spread through their ranks. Captain, the communications officer said, voice tense, we are being hailed by other Imperial ships. They are asking for reinforcements. Daniel did not hesitate. Then we fight. We do not retreat. Humanity will not be pushed aside. The Resolute darted between enemy ships, each shot precise, each movement calculated. Imperial crews panicked as their formations broke under the human attack. Even the battleships could not adjust quickly enough. One cruiser exploded in a shower of fire. Another was disabled, drifting without engines. In the council chambers of the Empire, fear began to spread. Messages arrived from multiple sectors reporting the same story: one human ship had beaten a fleet, and its captain showed no fear. Whispers of rebellion and hope began to surface. Some governors worried that oppressed planets would rise, inspired by humanity's courage. Admiral Vera, aboard the Iron Crest, roared in frustration. This cannot be. One ship cannot cause this much damage. But the truth was undeniable. The Resolute had shifted the battle's tide. The fleet's confidence faltered as losses mounted. What they thought would be an easy victory had become a fight for survival. On the Resolute's bridge, Daniel observed the fleet carefully. He did not take pleasure in destruction. He understood that showing restraint and precision mattered as much as winning the battle. Every strike was calculated to disable rather than annihilate. His goal was to prove humanity's strength, not to slaughter needlessly. The Imperial fleet, shaken and disorganized, began retreating. Commanders realized their pride had blinded them. Their numbers could not overcome skill, precision, and the courage of one determined ship. As the fleet withdrew, the Resolute remained standing, battered but unbroken. Its crew cheered quietly, relief and pride mixing with exhaustion. Captain Daniel looked out at the stars, calm and determined. This is only the beginning, he said softly. The galaxy will remember what humanity can do. Far away, other races watched the battle through hidden sensors. Stories of the human warship spread quickly. Some whispered fear, others whispered hope. For the first time, oppressed civilizations believed that the Empire might not be unstoppable. Humanity had shown the galaxy that courage and resolve could challenge even the greatest powers. The Resolute drifted in the void, its hull scarred, its engines warm from the exertion, but alive. Its crew worked quietly to repair damage, hearts strengthened by the victory. The galaxy had taken note. Captain Daniel knew the Empire would return, stronger and angrier. He also knew that this battle had already changed something greater. Humanity had proven its place among the stars. The message was clear: no matter how powerful the Empire, no one should ever underestimate humanity. In the quiet that followed the battle, the crew of the Resolute looked at their captain with new understanding. They were not just soldiers on a ship, they were the first symbol of hope for the galaxy. And in that moment, humanity's journey among the stars truly began. The stars stretched endlessly across the void as the Imperial fleet retreated. The great ships, once confident and proud, limped away with damage and burned pride. The mighty Iron Crest led the withdrawal, its massive hull scarred by the precision strikes of the human warship Resolute. The Empire had underestimated humanity, and now the consequences were clear. Inside the Resolute, the bridge was quiet but filled with a sense of triumph. Captain Daniel moved slowly, his eyes on the stars beyond the viewport. Around him, his crew worked to repair minor damages, adjust shields, and replenish energy reserves. They were tired, yet their spirits soared. They had faced the greatest fleet the galaxy could send and had survived. They had not only survived, they had proven that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. The tactical officer broke the silence. "Captain, sensors show the remaining Imperial ships retreating toward the outer systems. They are badly damaged. Some may never recover." Daniel nodded, his expression calm but proud. "Good. Let them return with their lesson learned. Humanity is not weak. Humanity is not afraid." The communications officer hesitated before speaking. "Captain, other systems are receiving reports of the battle. Traders, smugglers, even minor colonies, they are all talking about us. Some are calling Resolute the Shield of Hope." Daniel allowed a small, calm smile. "Then we must live up to that name. Hope is fragile, but if used well, it can inspire. Humanity has stepped onto the stage of the galaxy, and now others will see what courage looks like." On the Imperial side, the council chambers were in chaos. The Emperor's advisors argued bitterly. Generals and admirals pointed fingers, each blaming the other for the humiliation. The retreat of their fleet had shaken the pride of the Empire, and for the first time in centuries, doubt crept into their hearts. "Do you see what one ship has done?" a governor asked bitterly. "The galaxy now whispers that the Empire can be challenged." The Emperor, silent until now, finally spoke. His voice was low but carried authority. "This is not the end. The humans have shown strength, but we will return. No fleet, no matter how small, can stand against the Empire forever. Prepare for the next encounter. Humanity will learn quickly that we do not forgive failure." Yet even as the Emperor spoke, the story of the Resolute had already spread far and wide. Traders told it in marketplaces. Scientists debated the design of the warship. Rebels and oppressed civilizations whispered in hidden corners of the galaxy. A single human warship, commanded by one calm and determined captain, had changed the way the galaxy viewed power. Back on the Resolute, Captain Daniel stood at the center of the bridge. His crew approached him, faces filled with respect and admiration. "Captain," the engineer said, "we are still in one piece. We survived when no one thought we could. Your leadership made the difference." Daniel shook his head slightly. "We survived because we believed in each other. Leadership is only as strong as the people who follow it. Humanity's strength is not just technology or firepower, it is courage, resolve, and the refusal to bow to fear." The crew nodded, inspired by his words. They understood that this battle was not just about one ship or one fleet, it was about what humanity represented to the galaxy. In the following days, the Resolute traveled from system to system, not seeking conquest, but signaling a presence. Every world it passed received reports of its victories and its crew's resolve. Across the stars, the legend of the human warship grew. Fear and respect spread among the Empire's allies, while hope spread among the oppressed. Captain Daniel watched as stars passed by, thinking ahead. The Empire would recover, regroup, and return. The galaxy was not yet free from its influence. But humanity had taken the first step. They had shown that one determined race, armed with courage and skill, could stand against even the greatest power in the universe. He spoke softly to the crew, words meant for them but carrying a message for all who might hear it someday. "Today, we have proven that humanity does not kneel. Tomorrow, we will show them that we will fight for freedom, for hope, and for the right to exist as equals among the stars." The crew stood silently, feeling the weight of their captain's words. They understood what they had achieved and what awaited them. Humanity had stepped into the galaxy not as a subject, not as a minor race, but as a force with courage and resolve. Far beyond the battlefield, in distant systems and hidden worlds, the message was clear. One human warship had challenged the Empire, survived, and inspired countless others. The Empire was not invincible. Humanity was rising. And so, in the cold light of distant stars, a new dawn began. The galaxy had seen humanity's courage, and the name of the human warship Resolute would be remembered for generations. The Empire had been warned. The galaxy had been awakened. Humanity had arrived. Captain Daniel turned to his crew one last time. "We have taken our first step. The universe is vast, and our journey has just begun. Hold fast, stay brave, and remember we do not kneel." The crew echoed his words, voices strong and proud. And as the Resolute sailed into the unknown, the stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, as if acknowledging the rise of a new power in the galaxy. The Empire had been challenged. The galaxy had seen courage. Humanity had begun its legend.